Hi guys, it's On Both Fronts here. I am Gabrielle and I am the magic behind On Both Fronts, and I just wanted to take a little time out today to kind of talk about sometimes we can have negative interactions with a doctor, and sometimes it's easy to get ahead of ourselves and get upset. And I just want to talk about, I had an experience yesterday, so this is all fresh in my mind. I want to get it out to you. I had an interaction with a doctor yesterday, a doctor for my son Seamus, who, as you all know if you follow me, has a feeding tube. It's a peg tube in his stomach, and he's had that since he's been alive, so almost 2 years now. The doctor that we went and saw replaced his initial one when he was about 7 months old, and we haven't seen him for a year. His nurse would just come in, change the port out, tell me how to do it, and ask if I'm comfortable doing it, which not yet. So yesterday was kind of just like our 3 months, I think it had been about 4. We came in to get the tube changed, look at the granulation tissue, get that off, and kind of just touch base. I don't like doing things on my own. I like to be interconnected with the doctors so that they all know what's going on. And for first time, it was a different nurse, a different surgical nurse who was working with him this time, and she wasn't really familiar, and she asked a lot of questions, and I told her, you know, Seamus has a feeding tube. He's had it since he was 2. He had aspiration issues when he was a baby. That's why we have it. And he hasn't gained weight because of his genetic syndrome that makes them not grow or gain weight. It is a generally known fact about ODO or SPBS. If you guys have watched my video, it talks all about their weight gain struggles and just being petite, you know, short stature. They're typically pretty small. So I thought I had covered it up. She said, okay, I'm just gonna go get the supplies and we'll change this out. Well, for the first time in a year, the doctor comes in and he says there is no reason, the first thing he really says to me is, there is no reason that a child on a feeding tube should have issues gaining weight. So when he isn't gaining weight, the first person they look at is the parents, meaning me. Like, I am not feeding him, and that's why he's not gaining weight. So I just said, okay. This whole time I really didn't say anything. I just listened and didn't answer. You know, and he kind of went on about how Seamus wasn't gaining weight, and kids are typically better behaved when they're fed and not in starving mode, because my son was upset that he had to get undressed, and he's kind of reaching the age-appropriate milestone of being afraid of strangers, which happened the second we went in there. When the nurse was trying to take his vitals, he screamed the whole time. He didn't want anyone touching him, which is typically pretty common for him now. I mean, it's been recorded with all his therapists. So anyway, he was upset, and the doctor said kids tend to be better behaved when they're actually fed. And I said, okay. Then he asked about a nutritionist, and I said yes, we are scheduled to go and see one. And then he was like, well, do you plan on keeping that appointment, because he'll start gaining weight and he'll look 10 times better once you see him? And I said, it was just put in and the appointment's tomorrow, meaning like right now before I'm filming this, I have to go to that appointment later. So really, it was a really bad experience after all. He changes the tube, whatever, and Seamus cried the whole time. It took a little bit longer to get a granulation. There was kind of a cyst around the tube because of how long they had put the tube in, so it's kind of pulling, and there was some granulation tissue, so it took a lot longer than usual. So Seamus crying this whole time. We have to restrain him. It hurts. They put a scalpel into his skin and cut, so yeah, it hurt a lot, and he was upset. So at the conclusion of all that, I pick him up. He's He's calming down. He's looking at these people like really angry, and he doesn't want them to touch him. And the doctor looks at him and goes, "Oh, look, he's been crying so hard his eyes are swollen, he can't see." And I think it's pretty obvious, and to most of my followers, I think you guys would agree that Seamus has restricted eye openings. He has right-sized eyeballs, but his eye openings are very, very small. So it looks like he just has little slits to see through. It's a pretty obvious thing that most people see and will understand, and kind of clues them in that something isn't right with Seamus, meaning his disability, because it is related to his genetic syndrome. And this doctor didn't even know that Seamus had restricted eye openings. He thought it was because Seamus had been crying and his eyes had swollen. So I was pretty angry with the whole interaction with this doctor, and there's like a little bit more that just put the topping on the cake. But anyway, it was generally a really bad experience, and I am actually, even though I seem quite calm, I am very upset with him, and I am very, let's just say, I am disinclined to go back. And he is the only doctor in our state, but our part of the state, that even offers this service. He's the only specialist that we can see and get this done. So I am faced with the dilemma of, like, do I pay out of pocket to go to an out-of-network, out-of-state doctor to do this because I can't stand to interact with this other doctor who clearly didn't take enough time to even learn or understand his own patient? I'm not a stranger to the office. All the pediatric specialists here where I live are in the same office, and Seamus has seen almost every single one of them. I am there all the time. We went through growth hormone shots. I was there twice a week, every week for 6 weeks. So I am not a stranger to this office. I am not a stranger to this kind of special needs stuff. Seamus has a lot of special needs, and I am fully aware that he doesn't gain weight. It's been a struggle since day one. All his other doctors seem to understand that this has been on the plate, and we have just been taking it in stride. He is eating enough. I know he's eating enough calories. We are seeing a nutritionist today because it's time to transition him off of formulated breast milk and get him onto something that's kind of just got enough nutrients for him. But I have been adding in vitamins. I add in formula into the breast milk to make it higher calorie count. There are a great many things that I do to feed my son, and our whole lives are centered around, like, every 3 hours he needs to eat. We need to have this done. And that has been our life for almost 2 years. And it was insulting to have a doctor just assume that you were not capable of taking care of your own child. And I find it, for one, gross negligence. I feel like the doctor didn't even take the time to realize that Seamus had a genetic syndrome, and he had been seeing the geneticist who literally has an office right across the hallway. He didn't take time to realize anything because he was just focused on Seamus's weight gain and him not being on the growth curve even at all. But Seamus has finally reached 20 pounds, a monumental weight that we've been trying to reach for a long time. And I contacted the other parents because I was very upset when I got home. Contacted the other parents right away, other kids who have this genetic syndrome. And basically all the other kids his age are less, they weigh less than him or right at the same amount. None of them are over 21 pounds, and most of them, even the older ones who are 24 years old, that's older than me, and they look like they're 10. Their 12-year-old sister is super tall, and they are short and look like a younger kid. And so, just need to decompress here. I just had a super bad experience, and I am dealing with a lot of stress of having to go and face this doctor again and see him and act like he didn't threaten to call CPS on me for starving my own child. But I've had the day to think about it, and I just realized that there are some people, I mean, everywhere, who aren't going to understand and really are going to give you a hard time, but they don't even know the struggle that you've been through. They don't know what you're going through. And so it's really hard to admit and swallow my pride and be like, I'm just going to let this go. But Seamus needs to see this doctor. It's once every 3 months, and I've contacted my primary doctor, and he really says there's nothing I can do unless I get a different insurance and I drive a long way out of state. I have to drive 4 hours to find another doctor that will do this. So really it is about being the bigger person and realizing sometimes you're going to have to deal with people that you hate, and he is definitely on that list now. Thank you. He was one of the only ones that I really liked at this other hospital I have to go to, not our regular normal healthcare provider. So thank you for proving my point that this hospital is total garbage and they treat their patients like crap, because it's true. But I just want to tell other parents, sometimes being the bigger person and just getting what your child needs done has to be enough, because you aren't given any other options. And I think a lot of people who don't have to deal with healthcare issues don't realize how much of a sacrifice we have to give up, and sometimes we have to swallow our pride and do what's right for our kids because they have no other choice, and really we don't have any other choice. This is peanut butter, by the way. Hilo is obviously very excited about a big jar of peanut butter. So thank you for listening to me rant today. I know I didn't really address a lot of issues and get, tell you about stuff, but that was what happened recently, and it was super stressful. And even my husband, who gets mad about nothing, was just irate. He wanted to call the office and scream at them, but we're going to take the high road on this one. I'm going to encourage all you other parents. I know what you're going through, and if you hate incompetent doctors who clearly don't take the time to read the dang chart or really ask you what's going on before accusing you and threatening to call CPS on you, I don't know, maybe you need some better training. I don't know, but I'm sorry, this was not a great experience, and I hope you guys all have better ones, and that maybe I can find a better doctor, because clearly he should not continue to see my son. But thank you for listening to an On Both Fronts rant. I usually don't do these, but I just felt like there'd be other people there who can kind of relate to this, and kind of if you have been through something like this, let me know in the comments. I've been thinking about writing a blog article about it and kind of going on fire about something so ridiculous but still so important to address. Thank you for following us, and I hope you follow us on Instagram. I'll put all the links below so you can find us everywhere. And keep looking for that new book I'm writing about On Both Fronts, kind of our background story and how we live day to day and how we kind of make it seem a little bit easier than it is, obviously. But thank you guys, and I hope to see you soon. See ya!